Have you ever paused in the hush of night and wondered why the great rivers of history still carry the echoes of ancient conflicts? What secret pain scars the Holy Lands? Why the wounds between the children of Abraham remain stubbornly unhealed? Imagine, for a moment, that somewhere behind the headlines and the heartbreak, deep within a story, recited not just in books but in blood, sand, and tears, awaits an answer more profound than politics or borders. Pause, breathe. The journey we are about to embark on does not race, it beckons you gently, calling your spirit inward. Before we take our first step, if you have ever wrestled with the mysteries of paradise, the battles within the spiritual world, or sought the truth of what existed before humanity's very first breath, I invite you to subscribe to the Bible Stories channel and let your questions ring out in the comments below. Your searching heart, your voice, is a chosen thread in the tapestry of those who dare pursue truth beyond the surface. Settle in. You are about to follow an ancient trailer path that travels not only through time, but pierces the veils of meaning, memory, and destiny. Here, we do not rush, we immerse, we listen. The story before us is that of two brothers, Isaac and Ishmael, and the uncanny pattern of their lives, choices, and legacies, a pattern mirrored in today's world with chilling accuracy. It is the story not simply of nations at war, but of souls divided and yearning for reconciliation. Thousands of years ago, two children of Abraham began a journey of separation. Their stories, etched across the landscape of Genesis, would become the very architecture of our present and, possibly, the shape of our future. Let us begin not with fire and thunder, but with stillness. At the heart of this mystery is a subtle, yet staggering principle born in the wisdom traditions of Israel. Maza Havat, Simon Labanum. The deeds of the fathers are a sign for the children. What appears, at first blush, to be poetic abstraction is, in truth, a prophetic mechanism that traces a blueprint from yesterday's choices to tomorrow's realities. In Christianity's earliest centuries, the Apostle Paul whispered of the same thing, the notion that events in the Hebrew Scriptures are types, echoes, or shadows cast forward, imprinting meaning and destiny on the later generations. Typology, he calls it. What looks like mere history unfurls as living prophecy, map whispered by God, decipherable not only by scholars, but by anyone willing to see past the ordinary dot. So imagine every news story of strife between Jew and Arab, every heartbreak in Jerusalem, every cry from Gaza or song of longing from the diaspora. What if these are not accidents, nor random eruptions of hatred or fear, but the trembling aftershocks of a family drama? When seen through this ancient lens, the tension ceases to be merely political or ethnic. It becomes heartbreakingly personal, an echo of sibling rivalry, lingering down the millennia, replaying itself across empires and deserts. Yet where does this echo begin? With a promise and a pain. God's word to Abraham, "I will make you into a great nation, and through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed." Genesis 2:3. But as the years crept by and Sarah's womb remained silent, the great promise began to bleed into bitter disappointment. The ache of childlessness gnawed at Sarah not only as private sorrow, but as public disgrace. It is here, in the hush of despair, that human effort tries to force spiritual blessing. Sarah, her faith overruled by longing, offers her slave Hagar to Abraham, a desperate, holy gamble. She hopes perhaps she can manufacture her own miracle. But the plan sows seeds of bitterness instead. It is easy, from the safe harbor of hindsight, to judge Sarah's impatience, but who among us has not attempted to coax God's timing, to bend heaven's promise to our own pace? The ancient story, then, is not only an allegory of nations but of every restless heart. When Hagar conceives, the circle of pain widens. Envy poisons the hope Sarah once kindled. She turns on Hagar with cruelty, driving her into the wilderness. Alone and afraid, beside a desert spring, Hagar is met, not with judgment, but by an angel offering comfort in prophecy. "Return to your mistress and submit to her," he says, "for I will multiply your offspring beyond number." Genesis 16:9-10. Out of exile, a nation will rise. And so the boy is named Ishmael. God hears. Even those the world casts aside are not denied heaven's notice. But prophecy does not flatter. The angel's words are haunting. "He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against every man, and every man's hand against him. And he shall dwell in the presence of all his brothers." Genesis 16:12. To the modern ear, wild donkey may sound harsh, but in the poetic idiom of the ancient Near East, it is a tribute to the freedom and unyielding spirit of the desert. Here is a lineage destined for endurance untamed, fierce in independence, yet this strength comes at a price. For the prophecy promises not peace but perennial conflictor, shadow cast across generations. Must a people forged in struggle ever truly rest? For more than a decade, Ishmael is the only son of Abraham, the focus of his hope, the vessel of his dreams. 13 years pass before the axis tilts again. In the blazing desert, while Abraham sits outside his tent, three strangers approach. They bear a message soaked in impossibility. Sarah, despite her old age, will bear a son. Sarah laughs not with joy, but in the numb disbelief of one who has grown weary of disappointment. Yet God's ways are not bound by human probability. Amid laughter, Isaac, meaning he will laugh, is born, turning sorrow into stunned rejoicing. But under that joy, another storm coils. For Isaac's miraculous arrival appends what Ishmael believed would be his inheritance and destiny. At a feast for Isaac's weaning, Sarah glimpses Ishmael mocking her son. The Hebrew suggests not harmless play, but something deeper perhaps, a claiming of birthright, a threat to the covenant's promised line. Sarah demands action. Cast out this slave woman and her son, for the son of this slave shall not be heir with my son Isaac. Genesis 21:10. The pain splits Abraham's heart. To choose between children is to be torn in two, yet God instructs him to listen to Sarah, reassuring him of Ishmael's own greatness. I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring. Genesis 21:13. The dawn after that decision must have felt colder than any before. Abraham, with bread, water, and final embrace, sends Hagar and Ishmael into the desert. It is a scene drenched in pain, a microcosm of every exile that will follow. Abraham's tears echo in the centuries of displacement, in the millions of refugees and wandering souls who still struggle by the edge of the world's wilderness, looking for a promise, a drop of mercy. Yet, listen, even in exile, grace breaks through. As Hagar weeps, an angel appears again. Lift up the boy, for I will make him a great nation. Genesis 21:18. A spring bursts from hidden ground. Salvation pierces despair. Ishmael's line will not only survive, it will flourish. 12 princes will descend from him, a counterpart to the 12 tribes born from Isaac's son Jacob. This is the shape of the story cast before us. 2 sons, 2 promises, 1 spiritual inheritance, 1 earthly greatness. Isaac becomes the bearer of the covenant, the prophet's line. But Ishmael's progeny will birth empires and civilizations spanning continents. The 2 destinies intertwine, love and loss, promise and pain, the joy of chosenness, the ache of rejection. Consider the Psalms. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? Psalm 13:1. Even the most blessed life is not devoid of longing. Even those chosen for greatness walk shadowed roads. If these ancient fractures sound familiar, it is because they are still being played out, generation by generation. The echoes of Sarah and Hagar, of Isaac and Ishmael, resound in the conflicts of our own Aegean rival claims to land, in bitter theological disputes, in every human heart that walks the long path from jealousy to forgiveness. Yet even as lines divide, the same divine voice calls to both. You are not forgotten. A promise remains. The journey has only begun. If you find yourself drawn to the deeper mysteries, the secret history that moves beneath surface events, I urge you once more to like, subscribe, and comment below. Tell us the questions that burn in you about heaven's secrets, the battles of light and darkness, or what it means to find your place in a story older than humanity itself. Your hunger for wisdom unites you with a chosen generation, and your voice may illuminate the path for another soul drawn by the same longing. In the chapters yet to come, we will continue this exploration, walking slowly, listening deeply, and seeking the hidden thread that runs from patriarchs to our own searching hearts. Let us slow our pace and step deeper into the unfolding tapestry of this ancient story. Imagine the desert wind, the hush of twilight, and the weight of promises that seem both luminous and unbearably heavy. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is not merely a tale of 2 bros, it's the living pulse of a question that has haunted humanity. What does it mean to be chosen? And what does it mean to be left behind? In the quiet after the birth of Isaac, the camp of Abraham was filled with a strange mixture of joy and unease. Sarah, once barren and broken by years of longing, now held her miracle in trembling arms. Her laughter, once bitter, had become a song of astonishment. Yet, beneath the surface, the old wounds had not healed. Ishmael, the firstborn, watched as the world shifted around him. The arrival of Isaac was not just the birth of a child, it was the birth of a new order, a new destiny, and a new fracture. The ancient principle, the deeds of the fathers are signs for the children, echoes here with haunting clarity. Every gesture, every word, every moment of jealousy or hope becomes a seed that will grow into the forests of future generations. The rivalry between Isaac and Ishmael is not just a family drama. It is the archetype of all human conflict, the struggle for belonging, for blessing, for a place in the story. Consider the feast held for Isaac's weaning. The air was thick with celebration, but also with tension. Ishmael, now a young man, was seen mocking Isaac. The Hebrew word hints at something deeper than mere playfulness, a challenge, a claim, perhaps even a protest against the shifting tides of inheritance. Sarah, fiercely protective of her son's destiny, demanded that Abraham send Hagar and Ishmael away. Her words were sharp, but they were also the voice of a mother desperate to secure the promise she had waited a lifetime to receive. Abraham's heart broke. To choose between his sons was to be torn in two. Yet, in the stillness of his anguish, a divine voice spoke. Do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman. Listen to whatever Sarah tells you, because it is through Isaac that your offspring will be reckoned. But I will also make the son of the slave into a nation, because he is your offspring. The pain of separation was not the end of the story, was the beginning of two destinies, each marked by both blessing and sorrow. As Hagar and Ishmael wandered into the wilderness, the silence of exile pressed in. The water ran out, and hope seemed to wither in the heat. Hagar, unable to watch her son die, placed him under a bush and wept. In that moment of utter despair, a voice called out not in judgment, but in compassion. Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying. A well of water appeared, and with it, the promise of survival, of future, of greatness. That this moment in the wilderness is more than a story of rescue. It is a revelation of divine attention to those cast aside, a reminder that no one is invisible to the eyes of heaven. Ishmael, whose very name means God hears, becomes the ancestor of nations, a living testament to the truth that blessing is not the exclusive property of the chosen, but a river that flows even in the deserts of rejection. Yet, the story does not shy away from the reality of conflict. The prophecy over Ishmael that he would be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, speaks to the enduring tension that would mark his descendants. This is not a curse, but a recognition of the fierce independence, the unbreakable spirit, and the perpetual struggle that would define a people shaped by exile and survival. As centuries passed, the children of Isaac and the children of Ishmael grew into nations. Their paths diverged, yet their destinies remained intertwined. The land that once held a single family became the stage for empires, for prophets, for wars, and for wonders. The promise to Abraham that through his offspring all nations would be blessed remained a beacon, even as the shadows of division lengthened. In the Psalms, the cry of the human heart is laid bare. How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? This lament is not just the voice of David, but the voice of every soul that has ever felt abandoned, every nation that has ever wandered in the wilderness of history. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is the story of longing for home, for peace, for reconciliation. Yet, even as the wounds of the past bleed into the present, there is a thread of hope woven through the narrative. The same God who heard Hagar cry in the desert is the God who remembers every exile, every outcast, every broken heart. The journey of these two brothers is not only a warning of the dangers of jealousy and division, but a promise that even in the deepest estrangement, the possibility of blessing remains. As you listen to this story, let it settle into your spirit. The conflicts of today are not merely political or territorial, they are the echoes of ancient choices, ancient wounds, and ancient hopes. But if the past can cast a shadow, it can also cast a light. The deeds of the fathers are not only signs of what is broken, but also of what can be healed. If you find these reflections stirring something within you, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. What questions do you carry about the mysteries of inheritance, the pain of division, or the hope of reconciliation? Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for meaning that binds us all. Let us continue, slowly and thoughtfully, on this journey. The story is far from over. The next chapter awaits, rich with meaning, challenge, and the promise of a deeper understanding. Let us continue our journey, moving deeper into the heart of the story, a place where the lines between history and destiny blur, and the echoes of ancient choices still shape the world we know. The tale of Isaac and Ishmael, of Sarah and Hagar, is not merely a record of the past. It is a living drama, unfolding in the present, inviting us to reflect on the nature of inheritance, identity, and the mysterious workings of divine purpose. As the years passed after Isaac's birth, the camp of Abraham was marked by both celebration and silent tension. The laughter that filled the tents was genuine, yet beneath it ran a current of uncertainty. Isaac, the child of promise, grew under the watchful eyes of his parents, while Ishmael, the firstborn, found himself increasingly on the margins. The separation that began with the mother's desperate decision now threatened to become a permanent fracture. The principle that the deeds of the fathers are signs for the children becomes ever more vivid here. Every action, every word, every moment of rivalry or reconciliation is not just a private matter, it is a seed sown into the soil of generations. The choices made in the heat of emotion or the chill of fear do not simply vanish, they ripple outward, shaping destinies far beyond what the original actors could have imagined. Consider the moment when Sarah, seeing Ishmael mocking Isaac, demands that Abraham send Hagar and her son away. This is not merely a mother's jealousy or a wife's insecurity. It is the collision of two destinies, two visions of the future, two understandings of what it means to be chosen. Abraham's anguish is palpable. To send away his son is to break his own heart, to sever a bond that had been forged in hope and sustained through years of waiting. Yet, in the midst of this pain, a divine voice speaks with clarity and compassion. Abraham is told not to be distressed, for both sons will become great nations. The covenant will pass through Isaac, but Ishmael will not be forgotten. Here, the story reveals a profound truth. Divine election is not a rejection of the other, but a calling to a particular purpose. Isaac is chosen for the covenant, the spiritual lineage, but Ishmael is blessed with earthly greatness, with a promise that his descendants will be numerous and strong. This distinction is not a matter of favoritism or injustice. It is a reflection of the mysterious ways in which the divine operates, ways that often confound human logic and challenge our assumptions about worth and destiny. The story invites us to consider, what does it mean to be chosen? Is it a privilege, a burden, or both? And what of those who are not chosen in the same way? Are they truly left behind? Or are they given a different, but equally significant, role in the unfolding of history? As Hagar and Ishmael wander into the wilderness, the narrative shifts from the drama of the camp to the solitude of exile. The desert becomes a place of testing, of revelation, of unexpected grace. When hope seems lost and death appears imminent, a well of water springs forth, a sign that even in the most desolate places, the divine presence is near. Ishmael's survival is not just a matter of physical endurance. It is a testament to the enduring nature of promise, to the reality that no one is beyond the reach of mercy. The story of Ishmael in the wilderness is a powerful reminder that blessing is not confined to the boundaries of the chosen. The God who hears the cry of the outcast, who provides for the abandoned, is a God whose compassion knows no limits. Ishmael's name, God Hears, becomes a living witness to this truth. His descendants will become a great nation, not in spite of their exile, but through it. The wilderness, often seen as a place of punishment or loss, is transformed into a place of encounter and new beginnings. As the generations unfold, the children of Isaac and the children of Ishmael grow into nations, their destinies intertwined yet distinct. The land that once held a single family becomes the stage for empires, for prophets, for conflicts, and for covenants. The promise to Abraham that through his offspring all nations would be blessed remains a beacon, even as the shadows of division lengthen. Yet, the story does not end with separation. In a moment of quiet reconciliation, Isaac and Ishmael come together to bury their father, Abraham. This act, simple yet profound, hints at the possibility of healing, of unity beyond division. The ancient wounds are not erased, but for a moment, they are set aside in the presence of shared grief and shared heritage. This scene invites us to reflect on the nature of reconciliation. It is not the denial of pain or the erasure of difference, but the willingness to stand together in the face of loss, to honor what is shared even as we acknowledge what divides. The burial of Abraham becomes a symbol, a sign that, despite all that has transpired, the possibility of peace remains. The story of Isaac and Ishmael, of Sarah and Hagar, is thus not only a tale of conflict and separation, but also of hope and the enduring possibility of reconciliation. It challenges us to look beyond the surface of history, to seek the deeper patterns that shape our world, and to recognize the ways in which our own choices echo those of the past. As you ponder these ancient truths, remember that the journey is not yet complete. The questions raised by this story about inheritance, identity, blessing, and reconciliation are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. If you find these reflections meaningful, consider liking and subscribing to the Bible Stories channel and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for wisdom that binds us all. Let us continue, with patience and openness, to explore the mysteries of this story. The next chapter awaits, rich with insight, challenge, and the promise of deeper understanding. Let us move forward, deeper into the labyrinth of faith, history, and longing, where the story of Isaac and Ishmael becomes not just a tale of two brothers, but a living parable for the world's most persistent questions. Here, the narrative shifts from the personal to the cosmic, from the tents of Abraham to the sacred stones and contested cities that still shape our world. The ancient fracture between the sons of Abraham is no longer confined to the wilderness, has become the very fault line upon which empires rise and fall, and upon which the hopes and fears of millions are built. In this section, we must pause and consider the nature of the covenant itself. What is it that made Isaac the child of promise and Ishmael the child of blessing? Why did the divine favor pass through one and not the other? The answer, as revealed in the ancient texts, is not a matter of merit or birthright, but of divine purpose, a purpose that often confounds human logic and expectation. The covenant, that sacred bond between God and Abraham, was not simply a promise of land or descendants. It was a spiritual inheritance, a calling that would shape the destiny of a people and, through them, the world. Isaac's birth was a miracle, a fulfillment of a promise that seemed impossible. He was born not through human effort, but through divine intervention, a child of grace, not of striving. Ishmael, though deeply loved and blessed, was the result of human impatience, an attempt to fulfill God's promise by human means. This distinction is subtle, yet it forms the very foundation of the biblical narrative. But what does it mean to be chosen? Is it a privilege, a burden, or both? The story suggests that chosenness is not about superiority, but about responsibility. Isaac's descendants would carry the weight of the covenant, the call to be a light to the nations, to bear witness to the reality of God in a world often shrouded in darkness. Yet, this calling would come at a cost: exile, suffering, and the perpetual challenge of remaining faithful in the face of adversity. For Ishmael and his descendants, the blessing was different, but no less real. They would become a great nation, fierce and free, their spirit forged in the crucible of the desert. Their story would be one of endurance, of survival against the odds, of a relentless quest for identity and belonging. The prophecy spoken over Ishmael that he would be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone and everyone's hand against him, was not a curse, but a recognition of the unique destiny that awaited him. It was a destiny marked by struggle, but also by greatness. As the centuries unfolded, the children of Isaac and the children of Ishmael grew into nations, their paths diverging yet forever intertwined. The land that once held a single family became the stage for empires, for prophets, for wars and wonders. The promise to Abraham that through his offspring all nations would be blessed remained a beacon. Even as the shadows of division lengthened, nowhere is this tension more visible than in the city of Jerusalem, a place where stone and scripture collide, where the dreams and sorrows of countless generations are etched into every wall. Here, the question of inheritance becomes not just a matter of theology, but of blood and soil, of memory and hope. The Temple Mount, sacred to Jews as the site of Solomon's temple and to Muslims as the place of Muhammad's ascension, stands as a symbol of both division and longing. Who does this mountain belong to? Whose story is written in its stones? The answer, it seems, depends on where one stands. For Jews, the Temple Mount is the spiritual epicenter of the world. the place where God's presence once dwelt, where the covenant was sealed in sacrifice and song. For Muslims, it is Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary, the site of the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the place from which the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. Two names, two meanings, two destinies woven together, yet forever. In tension, beneath the surface, however, lies a deeper truth. The conflict over Jerusalem is not merely a struggle for land or power. It is a struggle for meaning, for the right to define the story, to claim the legacy of Abraham as one's own. The question is not only who inherited the land, but who inherited the truth. In the sacred texts of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the story of Abraham and his sons is told and retold, each tradition offering its own interpretation, its own vision of what it means to be chosen, to be blessed, to be remembered. In the Jewish tradition, the covenant passes through Isaac, the child of promise, the one whose birth was foretold and whose life was marked by miracle. In the Islamic tradition, Ishmael is honored as the ancestor of the Arab peoples, the one who, alongside Abraham, rebuilt the Kaaba in Mecca and whose descendants would one day receive the final revelation. The Christian tradition, too, finds its place in this story, seeing in Isaac a foreshadowing of Christ, the ultimate child of promise, through whom the blessing of Abraham would be extended to all nations. This divergence is not merely academic, it has shaped the course of history, fueling both conflict and dialogue, both division and the hope of reconciliation. The question of who is the true heir of Abraham is not just a matter of ancient texts, it is a living question, one that continues to animate the hearts and minds of millions. Yet, even in the midst of this tension, the story offers a glimmer of hope. When Abraham died, the Bible records that Isaac and Ishmael came together to bury their father. For a moment, the old wounds were set aside, and the two brothers stood side by side, united in grief and in memory. This simple act, so easily overlooked, is a powerful reminder that reconciliation is possible, that the bonds of family and faith can transcend even the deepest divisions. The ancient principle, the deeds of the fathers, are signs for the children, echoes here with particular force. If the choices of the past have shaped the conflicts of the present, then perhaps the gestures of reconciliation, however small, can shape a different future. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is not only a warning of the dangers of jealousy and division, but a promise that even in the deepest estrangement, the possibility of blessing remains. As we reflect on these truths, let us do so with humility and hope. The conflicts of today are not merely political or territorial. They are the echoes of ancient choices, ancient wounds, and ancient hopes. But if the past can cast a shadow, it can also cast a light. The deeds of the fathers are not only signs of what is broken, but also of what can be healed. If you find these reflections meaningful, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for wisdom that binds us all. Let us continue, slowly and thoughtfully, on this journey. The story is far from over. The next chapter awaits, rich with meaning, challenge, and the promise of a deeper understanding. Let us now journey into the heart of the paradox, where the story of Isaac and Ishmael, once a family drama, has become the living pulse of civilizations. Here, the narrative is no longer confined to the ancient wilderness or the sacred tents of Abraham. It has become the very foundation upon which empires are built, faiths are defined, and destinies are contested. The echoes of their separation have grown into the thunder of nations, and the longing for reconciliation has become the silent prayer of millions. In this section, we must pause and reflect on the profound divergence that arose from a single family's fracture. The children of Isaac and the children of Ishmael, once brothers, now stand as the ancestors of peoples whose stories have shaped the world. The Jewish people, tracing their lineage through Isaac, have carried the spiritual inheritance that has defined their identity through exile, suffering, and survival. The Arab peoples, descended from Ishmael, have become a great nation, their history marked by resilience, endurance, and a relentless quest for belonging. Yet, beneath the surface of these grand narratives lies a deeper, more personal question. What does it mean to inherit a promise? Is it merely a matter of bloodline, or is it something more mysterious, an invitation to participate in a story that transcends time and place? The biblical account suggests that inheritance is not simply about receiving a blessing, but about carrying a responsibility. Isaac was chosen to bear the covenant, to be a light to the nations, to embody the hope of redemption. Ishmael, though not the heir of the covenant, was not forgotten. He was blessed with greatness, with a destiny that would shape the course of history. This distinction, subtle yet profound, has become the source of both inspiration and conflict. For the descendants of Isaac, the covenant has been a source of strength and identity, a reminder of their unique calling. For the descendants of Ishmael, the blessing has been a testament to their endurance and their place in the unfolding drama of humanity. Yet, the very fact of being chosen or not chosen has sown seeds of rivalry, misunderstanding, and pain. Consider the city of Jerusalem, where the stories of Isaac and Ishmael converge and collide. Here, the sacred stones bear witness to the hopes and sorrows of generations. The Temple Mount, revered by Jews as the site of Solomon's temple and by Muslims as the place of Muhammad's ascension, stands as a symbol of both division and longing. Each tradition claims a connection to Abraham, each sees itself as the true heir of the promise. The question of inheritance is not merely theological, it is existential, shaping the very identity of peoples and nations. Yet, even in the midst of this tension, the story offers glimpses of hope. The burial of Abraham by both Isaac and Ishmael is a moment of profound significance. In their shared grief, the brothers set aside their differences, if only for a moment, and honor the father who gave them life. This act, simple yet powerful, is a reminder that reconciliation is possible, that the bonds of family and faith can transcend even the deepest divisions. The ancient principle, "the deeds of the fathers are signs for the children," resonates here with particular force. If the choices of the past have shaped the conflicts of the present, then perhaps the gestures of reconciliation, however small, can shape a different future. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is not only a warning of the dangers of jealousy and division, but a promise that even in the deepest estrangement, the possibility of blessing remains. As we reflect on these truths, let us do so with humility and hope. The conflicts of today are not merely political or territorial, they are the echoes of ancient choices, ancient wounds, and ancient hopes. But if the past can cast a shadow, it can also cast a light. The deeds of the fathers are not only signs of what is broken, but also of what can be healed. In the Psalms, we find the cry of the human heart, "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever?" This lament is not just the voice of David, but the voice of every soul that has ever felt abandoned, every nation that has ever wandered in the wilderness of history. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is the story of longing for home, for peace, for reconciliation. Yet, even as the wounds of the past bleed into the present, there is a thread of hope woven through the narrative. The same God who heard Hagar cry in the desert is the God who remembers every exile, every outcast, every broken heart. The journey of these two brothers is not only a warning of the dangers of jealousy and division, but a promise that even in the deepest estrangement, the possibility of blessing remains. As you listen to this story, let it settle into your spirit. The conflicts of today are not merely political or territorial, they are the echoes of ancient choices, ancient wounds, and ancient hopes. But if the past can cast a shadow, it can also cast a light. The deeds of the fathers are not only signs of what is broken, but also of what can be healed. If you find these reflections meaningful, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for wisdom that binds us all. Let us continue, slowly and thoughtfully, on this journey. The story is far from over, the next chapter awaits, rich with meaning, challenge, and the promise of a deeper understanding. Let us draw near to the quietest part of the story, where the echoes of ancient conflict and the longing for reconciliation converge in a single, contemplative moment. The journey of Isaac and Ishmael, which began with rivalry and separation, now invites us to pause, reflect, and consider the deeper meaning behind their lives, a meaning that stretches far beyond the boundaries of history, religion, or even family. Here, in the stillness after centuries of struggle, we are called to look inward, to seek the wisdom that lies beneath the surface, and to ask, what does it truly mean to be part of this story? The narrative of these two brothers is not merely a chronicle of past events. It is a living parable, a mirror held up to every generation that has ever wrestled with questions of identity, belonging, and destiny. The wounds of Isaac and Ishmael are not just theirs, they are ours. Their longing for acceptance, their struggle for blessing, their hope for peace, all find resonance in the human heart. The story is not finished. It continues to unfold in the choices we make, the words we speak, and the way we see one another. As we contemplate the legacy of Abraham's sons, we are reminded that the deepest truths are often found not in the noise of conflict, but in the silence of understanding. The ancient principle, the deeds of the fathers are signs for the children, remains as relevant as ever. If the choices of the past have shaped the world we inherit, then our own choices will shape the world we leave behind. The story of Isaac and Ishmael is not only a warning about the dangers of jealousy and division, but a call to courage, humility, and hope. Consider the final scene in the biblical account. Isaac and Ishmael, after years of separation, come together to bury their father, Abraham. In that moment, the old wounds are not erased, but they are set aside. The brothers stand side by side, united in grief and in memory. This act, simple yet profound, is a testament to the possibility of reconciliation. It is a reminder that, even after the deepest estrangement, there is always a path back to one another, path paved with forgiveness, compassion, and shared humanity. This moment of reunion is not just a historical footnote. It is a prophecy, a whisper from the past to the future, inviting us to believe that peace is possible. The story does not end with division, but with the hope of restoration. The same God who heard Hagar's cry in the wilderness, who blessed both Isaac and Ishmael, who wove their destinies into the fabric of history, continues to call us toward reconciliation. The invitation is open to all to lay down the burdens of the past, to seek understanding, and to become peacemakers in a world that so desperately needs healing. In the Psalms, we find words that capture the longing of every heart. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Test me, and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. This prayer is not just for the ancient patriarchs, but for each of us. It is an invitation to examine our own hearts, to confront the divisions within us, and to seek the path of peace. The story of Isaac and Ishmael, of Sarah and Hagar, is thus not only a tale of conflict and separation, but also of hope and the enduring possibility of reconciliation. It challenges us to look beyond the surface of history, to seek the deeper patterns that shape our world, and to recognize the ways in which our own choices echo those of the past. The journey is not yet complete. The questions raised by this story about inheritance, identity, blessing, and reconciliation, as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. If you have found meaning in this journey, if the story has stirred something within you, I invite you once more to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel. Share your thoughts in the comments. What questions do you carry about the mysteries of inheritance, the pain of division, or the hope of reconciliation? Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for wisdom that binds us all. As we close this chapter, let us do so with a spirit of humility and hope. The conflicts of today are not merely political or territorial, they are the echoes of ancient choices, ancient wounds, and ancient hopes. But if the past can cast a shadow, it can also cast a light. The deeds of the fathers are not only signs of what is broken, but also of what can be healed. May we be among those who choose the path of peace, who honored the legacy of Abraham not by perpetuating division, but by seeking understanding, forgiveness, and reconciliation. The journey does not end here. It continues in every heart that dares to hope, in every voice that speaks for peace, and in every act of kindness that bridges the gap between brothers. May you walk this path with courage, wisdom, and grace, and may the God of Abraham bless you with the peace that surpasses all understanding, now and always. Let us step quietly into the next movement of this ancient story, where the echoes of Isaac and Ishmael's journey ripple through the centuries and touch the very heart of our modern world. Here, the narrative shifts from the realm of prophecy and family drama to the living reality of faith, identity, and the search for meaning that unites and divides us all. The story is no longer just about two brothers or two nations. It is about the human longing for belonging, the struggle to find one's place in a world shaped by promises, wounds, and hope. In the aftermath of separation and reconciliation, the descendants of Isaac and Ishmael carried their legacies into the unfolding tapestry of history. The children of Isaac became the people of Israel, bearers of the covenant, keepers of a promise that would sustain them through exile, persecution, and the relentless tides of change. the children of Ishmael grew into the Arab peoples, inheritors of a blessing that would see them rise as empires, poets, warriors, and seekers of God in the vastness of the desert. Yet, as the centuries passed, the question of who truly belongs, who is chosen, who is remembered remained a source of both inspiration and pain. The sacred texts of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam each tell the story in their own way, each claiming a connection to Abraham, each offering a vision of what it means to be part of the divine story. In these differences, we find both the richness of human faith and the seeds of misunderstanding. Consider the city of Jerusalem, where the hopes and sorrows of generations are etched into every stone. Here, the Western Wall stands as a symbol of longing and resilience for the Jewish people, while the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque bear witness to the spiritual heritage of Islam. Pilgrims from every corner of the earth come to pray, to weep, to seek the presence of the God of Abraham. Yet, beneath the prayers and the rituals, there is a silent question: can one city, one mountain, one story truly belong to all? The answer, perhaps, lies not in the stones or the scriptures, but in the hearts of those who seek God. The mystics of both traditions, Jewish Kabbalists and Islamic Sufis, have long taught that the journey to the divine is not a matter of conquest or exclusion, but of surrender, humility, and love. In their writings, we find a vision of unity that transcends the boundaries of creed and culture. They speak of the soul's longing for the infinite, of the fire that burns away pride and fear, of the possibility that, at the deepest level, all who seek God are already united in the mystery of divine love. This mystical vision is not a denial of difference, but a celebration of the many ways in which the human heart can respond to the call of the divine. It is an invitation to see beyond the surface of history, to recognize the image of God in every face, to honor the sacred in every tradition. In the Psalms, we read, "The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth." This promise is not limited by lineage or language. It is a gift offered to all who seek with sincerity and humility. Yet the journey toward unity is not easy. The wounds of the past run deep, and the shadows of suspicion and fear still linger. The story of Isaac and Ishmael reminds us that reconciliation is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process, a path that must be walked with patience, courage, and grace. It calls us to confront the divisions within our own hearts, to forgive the injuries of the past, and to reach out in compassion to those we have called other. In our own time, we see both the pain of division and the hope of healing. The Abraham Accords, recent agreements between Israel and several Arab nations, offer a glimpse of what is possible when old enmities are set aside in favor of dialogue and cooperation. These steps, though fragile and incomplete, are signs that the story is still being written, that the possibility of peace remains alive, even in the most unlikely places. But true reconciliation requires more than treaties or political agreements. It demands a transformation of the heart, a willingness to see the world through the eyes of the other, to listen with empathy, to speak with honesty, and to act with justice. It is the work of generations, a calling that each of us must answer. In our own way, as you reflect on this story, let its lessons settle into your spirit. The journey of Isaac and Ishmael is not just a tale of the past, it is a mirror for our own lives, a challenge to seek understanding, to pursue peace, and to become agents of reconciliation in a world that so often chooses division. If these reflections have stirred something within you, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your questions, your insights, your hopes are part of a conversation that stretches across centuries and continents. Let us continue, with humility and hope, to walk this path together. The story is not yet finished. The next chapter awaits, rich with possibility, challenge, and the promise of a deeper peace. As we continue this journey, let us pause and listen to the quiet undertones that run beneath the surface of the Isaac and Ishmael story, a melody of longing, hope, and the possibility of transformation. The narrative, once rooted in the ancient sands of the Middle East, now stretches its branches into the present, inviting us to consider how the lessons of the past might shape the choices of today and the dreams of tomorrow. The story of these two brothers, and the nations that sprang from them, is not only a chronicle of conflict, but also a testament to the enduring human desire for meaning, connection, and peace. In every generation, the question returns: can the wounds of history be healed? Can those who have been divided by blood, belief, and memory find a way to walk together once more? To answer these questions, we must look beyond the headlines and the boundaries of nation states. We must enter the realm of the spirit, where the deepest truths are often whispered rather than shouted. Here, the ancient principle, the deeds of the fathers are signs for the children, takes on new significance. If the choices of Abraham, Sarah, Hagar, Isaac, and Ishmael have echoed through the centuries, then our own choices too will reverberate into the future. Consider the power of forgiveness. In the biblical narrative, reconciliation is not achieved through force or negotiation, but through humility, compassion, and the willingness to see the other not as an enemy, but as a brother. The burial of Abraham by both Isaac and Ishmael stands as a silent witness to this truth. In that moment, the old rivalries are set aside, if only for a time, and the bonds of family and shared memory are allowed to speak. Forgiveness, however, is not a simple or easy path. It requires the courage to confront pain, to acknowledge the reality of loss, and to let go of the desire for revenge. It is a journey that begins within the heart, often in the quietest and most vulnerable places. The Psalms offer a prayer for this journey. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. This is the cry of every soul that longs for healing, for a new beginning, for the possibility of peace. In the world today, the legacy of Isaac and Ishmael continues to shape the lives of millions. The conflicts in the Middle East, the tensions between Jews and Arabs, the struggles for land, identity, and recognition, all are, in some sense, the unfolding of an ancient story. Yet, within these struggles, there are also moments of hope, acts of kindness across divides, dialogues between faiths, and the quiet work of peacemakers who refuse to let the past dictate the future. The mystics of both Jewish and Islamic traditions have long taught that the journey to God is, at its core, a journey toward unity. In the depths of prayer, in the silence of contemplation, the boundaries that separate us begin to fade, and the light of the divine becomes visible in every face. The prophet Isaiah envisioned a day when nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. This vision is not a distant dream, but a call to action, a summons to become agents of reconciliation in our own time. To walk this path is to embrace both the pain and the promise of the story. It is to recognize that the divisions of the past are real, but not final, that the wounds are deep, but not beyond healing. It is to believe that, even in a world marked by conflict, the seeds of peace can take root and grow. As you reflect on these truths, let them settle into your spirit. The journey of Isaac and Ishmael is not only a story of what has been, but a guide for what could be. It challenges us to look beyond the surface, to seek the deeper patterns that shape our world, and to become, in our own way, part of the answer to the ancient question, can brothers, once divided, find their way home? If these reflections have touched you, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your voice is part of a conversation that stretches across centuries, a search for wisdom, healing, and hope that binds us all. Let us continue, with patience and courage, to walk this path together. The story is not yet finished. The next chapter awaits, rich with possibility, challenge, and the promise of a deeper peace. Let us enter the penultimate stage of our journey where reflection becomes resolved, and history's ancient lessons form the blueprint for how we might move forward, individually and together. The story of Isaac and Ishmael, now woven into the collective memory and conscience of humanity, presents us not only with the pain of division, but also with the sacred invitation to participate in healing. In this chapter, the call is no longer only to observe, but to act, to become, in our own lives, peacemakers and bridge-builders. The journey thus far has led us through landscapes of longing and exile, moments of bitter rivalry and fleeting reconciliation. We have seen the power of story to shape not only our view of the past, but our choices in the present. Now, the question lingers: how can these ancient truths transform our relationships, our communities, and our world? The story of Isaac and Ishmael is fundamentally about inheritance, but not merely the inheritance of land, blood, or even religious tradition. It is the inheritance of a mission, the call to bless, to seek truth, to mend what is broken. The lives of these two brothers and the nations that came from them invite us to reflect on what it means to steward our own inheritance. This is not merely a historical curiosity, it is an urgent spiritual responsibility. In our own lives, Rifts and estrangements may not look like the geopolitical conflicts in Jerusalem or the bitter feuds writ large on the world stage, yet the pattern is the same. Misunderstandings deepen, hurts fester, pride fortifies division. The wisdom of the story whispers sometimes the most heroic act is not to defend our rightness, but to risk the vulnerability of forgiveness, even when it feels like an impossible gift. Consider the story through the lens of the Psalms. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The pursuit of peace is not passive resignation, but determined, courageous work. The reconciliation we saw between Isaac and Ishmael at Abraham's tomb was not the erasure of memory or pain, but the affirmation of something deeper than grievance, the recognition of shared origin. In a world obsessed with taking sides, can we be among those who step into the gap as reconcilers, letting go of the compulsion to be the winner of old arguments, and instead seeking the higher good? Let us also contemplate the role of humility. The tradition notes that Ishmael deferred to Isaac at their father's burial, allowing the younger covenant-bearing son to lead. This was an act of humility and respect, a relinquishment of personal status for the sake of something greater. How many conflicts, familial, communal, national, could be transformed if even one party chose humility over pride, honor over victory? The mystics, both Jewish and Islamic, show us that beneath doctrine and dogma lies a unity of longing for God, for truth, for belonging. The real inheritance is spiritual, the possibility to seek the divine together, to be transformed by the very act of seeking. It is here, in the shared cry of the human heart, that the deepest hope for peace resides. Yet, let us not be naive about the cost. Forgiveness is not forgetting, and reconciliation is not always possible. Some wounds remain, some doors never reopen, but the story calls us to the slow, patient work of sowing new seeds of kindness, honesty, and empathy. Even small acts matter. The willingness to listen, to ask difficult questions, to mourn with those who mourn, to rejoice with those who find hope. How then shall we live, carrying the legacy of Isaac and Ishmael within us? Perhaps it begins by refusing to let fear or prejudice define our boundaries. By listening, truly listening, to the stories of those we instinctively see as other. By seeking, in our own circles, to be agents of understanding and healing, rather than division and suspicion. And so, as we prepare for the final movement of this saga, let us pause perhaps for prayer, meditation, or mindful reflection. What patterns of rivalry or reconciliation echo in your own heart? Where might you choose the path of blessing over bitterness, of peace over pride? The choices of the fathers become the signs for the children. Our choices, no matter how small, can become the signs for generations yet to come. If this story prompts you to search for truth in your own life, remember to like and subscribe to the Bible Stories channel. Share your thoughts or moments of reconciliation in the comments below. Your voice, your journey, may become a lantern guiding others on the long road home. Let us continue, quietly and courageously, to the closing chapter not of endings, but of hope, renewal, and the whisper of peace that still calls out to each of us. As we arrive at the threshold of this journey's end, let us pause in the rare, lingering silence that follows an ancient song where history's refrain meets today's hope and tomorrow's promise. The story of Isaac and Ishmael was never just a chronicle to be read or a lesson to be learned. Rather, it was, and still is, a summons, a call for each of us to become conscious participants in the work of healing and blessing. Now, standing at this narrative summit, the question shifts from what happened to what will I do? The chalice of inheritance, passed from Abraham to his sons, pours not only stories and sorrows but a charge to bless, to forgive, to unite, and to walk humbly before God and one another. The story shows us that division and conflict, however ancient, are not the final word. In the stillness where Isaac and Ishmael met at their father's tomb, surrendering pride for the sake of something greater, lies the prophetic seed of peace for the world. Let this truth echo. The power to choose reconciliation over rivalry belongs not only to prophets and patriarchs, but to us, every son and daughter, shaped by the longing for harmony. It is here, at the crossroads of memory and possibility, that a new kind of inheritance begins to bloom. What might this look like? In our homes, recognizing that every relationship can be a stage for repentance, forgiveness, and grace. Like Abraham's sons, we may stand together in our shared humanity, choosing understanding over estrangement, even when generations of misunderstanding threaten to keep us apart. In our communities, refusing to be defined by old divisions, reaching beyond the labels that limit, and seeking out the sacred thread that binds us together. It is in extending kindness, hearing the other's story, and honoring our differences that the real work of peacemaking occurs in our hearts, allowing the journey's lessons to settle deeply, surrendering the compulsion to be right, the need to defend ancient grievances, and opening ourselves to transformation. As the psalmist prays, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. The greatest inheritance may be a heart willing to seek peace, even at cost to pride or tradition. In the larger world, recognizing that the echoes of Isaac and Ishmael continue in today's conflicts, and so, to us the invitation to lay down arms, whether of iron, word, or ideology, and labor instead for understanding and justice. Policies and treaties may fail, but the daily choice to see the image of God in another human being never fails to plant seeds of eternity. As the journey closes, let the story's sacred rhythm linger in your mind. We are not prisoners of the past, but pioneers of a hopeful future. The inheritance of Abraham is meant not for division, but for blessing all families of the earth. The miracle of reconciliation does not erase memory, it transforms it into wisdom and humility. If these chapters have moved you, let their message become alive in you and those you touch. Like, subscribe, and share the Bible Stories channel, and continue the dialogue below. What dreams, longings, or burdens do you bring to this ancient well? How might you, in your sphere of influence, reflect Abraham's hope, Isaac's laughter, Ishmael's resilience, and the God who hears every cry? The final lesson is this: the story is never finished while there are hearts to seek peace, hands to build bridges, and souls willing to forgive and begin anew. May you be counted among the peacemakers, the healers, the chosen generation, blessed to bless, humbled to serve, and courageous enough to hope. Until the next journey, may you walk in wisdom, speak with gentleness, and dwell in the peace promised to all who love, seek, and remember.